They say unicorn is a mythical animal anyway.
It is.
Right?
Better be a camel than a unicorn.
So yeah, I think we've done a lot in terms of energy transition.
Sure.
There are incentives for green hydrogen, storage, electrolyzer, solar panel manufacturing. I mean, all parts of new energies are being covered.
Sure.
Unfortunately, because I think the depth in the Indian market is not as much as should be for the number of companies we have, which needs capital. A lot of this paper goes out of India to Middle East. So
How many companies do you think are unicorn lined up for unicorn in the next couple of years? Are there any bets that you are ready to take?
I don't know how many.
Huh.
Uh, and I don't think if unicorn is become unicorn is as important in the current context.
Yeah.
They say unicorn is a mythical animal anyway.
It is.
Right?
Better be a camel than a unicorn.
So yeah, so I think it's common knowledge, right? Right now, more than valuation, you should chase value.
Right.
Uh, like for example, Zerodha, right? Never is needed to raise capital. It's a unicorn. That's the best business model for someone to potentially kind of get to if one can. So I don't think anyone should chase valuations because the real, I think the success is money in the bank, right? Till you get cash in hand, right? And that's how you have a concept of MOIC, multiple of invested capital,
Right.
cash put in and versus cash received. And that's how every investor is kind of judged. How much money do you put in versus how much money do you get in the bank?
Correct.
That has to be the right metric to look at vis-a-vis what valuation came in, what is the valuation on your books today. How does that matter?
Right.
Right. So I don't think from a market perspective becoming unicorn is as important. It was, it became a thing maybe 1 year back, but right now everyone is focusing on value creation than valuation creation.
So Divyanshu, you mentioned a lot. You mentioned very interesting points about battery, the tech part of it. Uh, but what's your feeling about India's ability to really get down to developing tech, but more important is manufacturing the technology? When I say tech, I'm not about software. I'm talking about the hardware, whatever it's required to build this entire ecosystem. So this entire Atmanirbhar Bharat
Yeah.
angle to EVs.
No, I think government is super focused on enabling Make in India, right? I think that's evident. The fact that we have such a vibrant PLI scheme, which is incentivizing you to Make in India. But I think as an industry, possibly industry needs to make a better use of what is on offer. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, we did not make the best use of FAME subsidy,
Right.
at least on the
Why
two-wheeler
do you
side.
say that? We did not make
I
the best
mean,
use of the subsidy.
there were issues around how that FAME subsidy was supposed to be availed, and it was not availed in the letter and spirit of how that subsidy, and that's why I think there is a question mark on whether the next phase of FAME will come or when it will come, because there was a denial, there was a message out in the market that FAME is on the anvil, and then was a denial by
Oh,
the
yes.
government.
Even that itself was a
Then
mess.
that was itself became a news that the government had to come and deny it officially, right? So we don't know, and the market needs that capital at least till the point it becomes self-sufficient from a viability perspective. But I think if we can get our act together, and I'm seeing that across industries. So for green hydrogen, for example, there are incentives on offer. On the electric bus side, what I'm hearing is the way government has got SECI to source renewable power, they possibly may come with a construct where there's a nodal agency acting as a counterparty for electric bus concessions. I think
Right.
that would be super for the EV bus sector. Similarly, on the smart meter side, government has come with something called a direct debit facility where the operator gets the cash flow first even before the lenders, right? So that gives certainty of cash flows. Because some promoter told me very interesting thing that for me, I need cash on a daily basis returns at the end of the month.
Yeah, right.
Right? I need to
It's a
run my,
working capital
it's a
issue.
working capital issue, right? So cash is really important to run any business. You have to pay salaries,
Right.
daily wages, etc., etc. So if you can solve the working capital issue by regularizing payments on time, which government is super focused on, and also viability issue with these capex subsidies, which can happen through PLI, etc. I think there's a lot of enablers in the system, but industry has to obviously work more towards making the best use of it. And I think there's a lot of work required along with the government to see what else is possible.
And that's what my next question. What else is required from the government to kind of enable a lot of capital to come into India into this sector? What are some of the two, three things you think still lacking in the ecosystem?
So I see, so and this comes to our chicken and egg conversation. I see a lot of PSUs actively participating in setting up the charging infra business,
Right.
right? I see oil majors getting into, so they will provide the infra,
Mhm.
and they have the benefit of having the real estate for that. So there is a fuel station, and then the charging station can come along. It makes a lot of sense. The once the network is there, I think the biggest question of range anxiety, right? So, and that is also improving with each new form factor kind of
Yes.
coming in. The range, your Tata car earlier is now maybe I think double of what it was, maybe
Right.
1.5 years back. So once the PSUs or the government entities solve for the infra, I think the adoption of EVs will be much faster. I read an article where someone said that Delhi, Mumbai, you can travel because there's enough charging now
Right.
on the way, right?
Right.
So that leads to the fleet of interstate cargo transportation.
Right.
Can we now operate EV trucks on long distances? And EV trucks can take a pit stop, right? There is no
Yes.
real time
Absolutely.
constraint, so they can actually, and they all take a pit stop, right?
Natural pit stops.
Natural pit stops, and food, rest, etc. So if we can take a break, get it charged in 6 hours, which is anyways budgeted in the entire travel time, and plus the unit economics of not necessarily using a diesel or a
Right.
diesel truck, it makes a lot of sense. So I think the government will solve for that and is in the process, and that's why I think there's so much interest from oil majors and PSUs on enabling that infra.
Mhm.
So that is one immediate space where I see a lot of activity happening on the charging infra side. Uh, on the electrolyzer side or
Mhm.
even green hydrogen side, I see because ultimately all these are forms of potential clean
Clean
energy,
energy.
right? To
Yes,
create green
absolutely.
hydrogen, etc. I do see government incentivizing uh, setting up electrolyzer manufacturing. There was just a bid by process by SECI last week where they're providing capital subsidies for producing green hydrogen too. And there's some 10 odd companies which participated and
Right.
won tenders. So there's enough and more happening. I think government also needs to see results on the ground
Mhm.
to make sure these subsidies continue or potentially increase. So and that is up to us as incumbents on industry to kind of build on it further. But I think that's a great start in the last 1 year. I think we've done a lot in terms of energy transition.
Sure.
There are incentives for green hydrogen, storage, electrolyzer, solar panel manufacturing. I mean, all parts of new energies are being covered.
Covered. But what about, let's say, not the issue around angel tax, the issue around these are not specific to EV, but essentially from an investee in perspective. Are there any angles to it which you think could be addressed or done better?
So tax, I do not know about the taxes which VCs have to pay or the angels have to pay because that's not a segment we deal with a lot. We
Sure.
deal with more of institutional large capital, infra funds or energy fund or climate funds, right? So we've seen an advent of something called as InvIT structures,
Yes.
right, which is essentially an yieldco structure.
Mm.
And I think last 3 years has been a success story around these InvIT trust, where a bunch of road companies and now renewable company, Indra has, for example, formed a renewable InvIT.
Right.
I think they are the first or second to kind of do that in India, which essentially enables you to extract cash out of India in the most tax efficient manner,
Mhm.
complying with the regulatory requirements of that InvIT. So there is work happening on the large infrastructure as well. I do not know about the individual or the VC slash
Correct.
angel tax issues. Maybe there's something where there's scope of improvement, but we don't kind of operate in that space
That's
so
space.
much. Yeah.
Just on the from a region perspective, in terms of investors' origin of
Yeah.
investment, that's also an interesting conversation. Where
Yeah.
the money comes from is also becoming interesting. So, what's your take on this? From region-wise, if you could just tell us where exactly is the money flowing into India, into this space?
Yeah, sure. I think that's an easy answer for a banker because that's where we kind of chase the trail of money. Uh, in the last, and I'll take you the last 5 years, a lot of money in India came from Canadian pension funds. If you look at post 2014-15, almost every Canadian pension fund of significance has come to India, set up their own teams, established businesses. You name it, they are there, right? So that is one pool of capital we've attracted very, very well. Of late, I see a lot of interest from Middle East.
Yeah.
Again, Middle East sees India as an economy which offers a lot of scale. Uh, I think our kind of relationship with that part of the world has been very good,
Mhm.
thanks to the efforts, diplomatic efforts, etc., etc. Uh, Middle East also see decent returns vis-a-vis their requirements coming from India. So that's the only issue there is. I think they are seeing too many deals from India now.
Huh? Okay.
Because I mean, everyone is chasing capital, and there's a perception that we may get the best valuation out of Middle East. So, we met someone, I think 2 weeks back from Middle East, and I asked him, how many deals are you seeing from India? He's like, I am stumped. was the answer. I think, yeah. So unfortunately, because I think the depth in the Indian market is not as much as it should be
Mm.
for the number of companies we
Companies
have,
we
which needs capital. A lot of this paper goes out of India to Middle East, and again we end up confusing that market as well. And the third market, which is doing very well, but it needs to be tapped in a different manner, is Japan.
Mm.
They are doing deals in India. There was a deal which was done with TVS Mobility. They've done something with Renew. But that market is more nuanced. They need more close engagement. It needs more time with them to kind of, but once they come in, I think they're a great partners to have as well.
Okay.
So I would see Japan, Middle East, and bits of Canadian money continue to come in.
You missed out the big one. What about the China money?
China, we have to first solve for the geopolitical issue.
Right.
So we have this PN3, Press Note 3 that we need to take
Mm.
approval. So I think that market, I will see a lot of technology partnerships happening with China. So you saw GSWMG
Right.
on the battery side as well. But China investing in India is not going to be, at least in the short term, uh, something very big.
No, that's a very interesting point you made. So then, someone were to look out, uh, do a technology partnership rather than a investment partnership, if I were to put it that way.
Don't look for capital, look for technology from
Oh,
China.
that's exactly. That's a brilliant take on the entire
Yeah,
ecosystem.
because they are far ahead on technology, right? It's a
Right.
fact, and we can either not continue to not do business, but I think I'll continue to see on cell side, on battery side, even on technology side within the vehicle itself. They control the EV market globally, so you will have to kind of at some where in the value chain look at China on technology partnership.
Great. Good. In terms of in closing out, one of the things I wanted you to do is essentially there are a lot of young startups who want to reach out, who are looking to raise capital. What are the top two, three things you think as a banker that they should be doing whenever they're getting themselves ready for an investment uh, in the short term? So, what are the two, three things they should watch out, look out, prepare themselves for? So, you may want to can look at this camera and
Yeah.
tell them.
So top two things, right? So I think first is any investor want to understand if the market you're participating isn't big enough, right? So have a very good view of how big is the market and who are the incumbents in the market. And the answer you need to have with you is what is your right to win, right? Uh, right to win along with barriers to entry. So if it's a market which is easy for anyone to get into, why should you kind of gain the majority of the market share vis-a-vis someone else? I think right to win is a question which any investor will ask, and that has to be a very well thought out, prepared answer back with numbers, right? Second is if it's $1 billion market, how quickly can you ramp it up?
Mhm.
And in this current context, along with making money,
Right.
right? So your business plan has to be really robust, operating in a segment which is attractive enough from money making perspective. Third is do not get stuck too much on valuation, right? you may kind of anchor yourself to a certain number, but if you're getting something within the range of plus minus 5, 7%, it's okay because you can always catch up in the next round once you have gained enough market share with the capital. In this market, capital is scarce. If you're getting it within the range of what you potentially want, take it, build on the business further. There will be better times when there'll be more liquidity in the market, and you will really kind of catch up on a potential 5% loss on value, which you would have to lose out on rather than
Correct.
one. I am seeing business folding up because they are getting stuck on a certain previous round valuation and not able to raise capital. So that is where I think you should know the value of your business, right? And if you're getting something which you deep down inside know is the value of my business, take it and build on it further. So these are some top three things. And the last point which I mentioned earlier was know your audience the best. So know the investor you're talking to, what are the kind of investments he's done, what sector, what returns, and then accordingly prepare your pitch.
Perfect. Divyanshu, this was great having a banker's view to, like they say, the bankers know the business best because they run the numbers. So this was an interesting conversation. I did not even realize how time went
Yeah,
by.
same here.
And for those of our audience who really want to reach out to Divyanshu, who want to take his viewpoints, we'll have his details
Sure.
or to reach out to us and we'll get you connected. But Divyanshu, this was an awesome time talking to you.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much
Yeah,
for coming on this show and giving your insights on the entire finance angle to
no,
electric
happy to.
mobility.
It is always great meeting you, and I think I learned a lot from you as well.
My pleasure.
And happy to kind of continue on this potential conversations around EV. I
Absolutely.
think next 6 months we'll have more to talk about.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Divyanshu.
Pleasure.
Thank you. So, to the audience out there, reach out to Divyanshu through us. But before we sign off, please do remember to like, share, subscribe. Till then, till our next episodes, thank you for watching us all, and thanks for joining us on Max on Mobility. Till next time, thank you.